everyone. I'm Ava Brunella. Welcome to the Inside Scoop, Leading for Justice Edition, the podcast where we explore programs, people, and ideas that are shaping our community and empowering young voices. In this episode, I have the distinct honor to be joined by the Honorable Lauren Sepulveda, the presiding Municipal Court Judge for the City of McAllen, Texas. Today, we will focus on a program I had the privilege of serving in, Teen Court. Teen Court is a unique program that gives young people the opportunity to learn about the justice system firsthand while also holding their peers accountable in a meaningful and educational way. In this conversation, Judge Sepulveda shares how the Teen Court program works, the process teens go through, how it can change lives, where the program began, and how it has grown over time. Today I have Judge Lauren Sepulveda joining the podcast. Welcome to the Inside Scoop.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So today we're going to be talking about the judge's role in McAllen Municipal Teen Court and how it benefits the community and teenagers in our community. So first question, can you just describe your role as a McAllen Municipal Teen Court Judge?
So here in the city of McAllen, I'm actually also the presiding judge, which means I'm the head judge out of the 5 judges that we do have. So in addition to teen court, I'm basically in charge of everything else that's going on in the department. But I am also the head teen court judge. And essentially what that means is I am facilitating. I actually developed our new program, developed all the paperwork we use with it, all of the procedures that we follow, and I am the head administrator. I know my associate judge, Judge Rick Montalvo, covers for me every once in a while, but mainly I'm the judge that's on site, on scene, doing teen court anytime we have a session.
So how did you first get involved with this program and what kind of led you to want to bring it back since it was gone for a while? What kind of led you to bringing it back and getting all these teenagers involved?
So I actually grew up in a city. I did not grow up in McAllen. I grew up in Wesco, and we did not have teen court when I was a teenager, but it did exist in the city of McAllen when I was young. And I had heard about it from some friends that grew up in McAllen. And I just thought, hey, that's really cool. Although, even though at that time I didn't know I wanted to be a lawyer. But especially when I was a young lawyer and I was working at the state bar level on the Young Lawyers Board, one of my colleagues was very deeply involved in the Plano Teen Court. And he would talk about his experience with them and how much he loved it. And he wasn't even a criminal attorney. He does contracts, in-house contracts for Cinemark theaters, actually. And so he just loved the program, thought it was so cool. And he's like, you should really look at getting involved in one in your area. And then right around that time is when I got my job as head judge here in McAllen. And I came in during the tail end of COVID. So I started January 2021. A lot of us were still wearing masks. We had a Zoom option available. And Teen Court did exist in a way, but it was a COVID version of Teen Court where essentially students were just watching videos and doing a PowerPoint or an essay for dismissal. And I really wanted to bring back the older version of Teen Court that once existed under the prior judge, Katie Henley, with the assistance of Junior League McAllen, and kind of revamp it. And so that's how I first got involved with it. And then just kind of started looking at other programs to see what we could do and how we could improve upon what we had before.
I'm very glad that you did that because, like, for me, it's provided great experience, great background in just the judicial system as a whole and just kind of getting your feet wet a little bit, especially since
Yeah.
I'm a teenager. It's also real defendants and it's real life. So
Mhm.
I think it's a great experience for anybody. So I'm very glad that you did bring it back.
Well, we have a lot of fun administering the program. And, we were first developing or trying to develop this way to come back from COVID, one of the first programs that I looked at, and I went to training on the Teen Court program out of Georgetown. They're kind of the flagship program across the state. And I thought it was so cool how they actually in their city did it a little differently than we do here in McAllen, but basically how involved the coordinators were and the local schools were with the administration of the program. I thought that was amazing. I think that partnership, collaborative partnership between the school system and the court is really something that children can benefit from. And I really liked that they I mean, these attorneys were invested. I saw these teen attorneys from Georgetown get up and argue their case so passionately. And I thought I want to do something like that here in the city of McAllen because actually teen court, while we do have permission to do it from the legislature, they don't tell us how to do it. It's kind of left open-ended because different cities need different things. Not every city is as big as McAllen or Georgetown and can pull a big block of teen volunteers to be attorneys and jurors and bailiffs and court reporters. In other cities, it may look a little different. It may be a video and an essay. It may be something else entirely, but we kind of have this freedom to develop the program in a way that best suits our city. And so I kind of took a little bit of Georgetown, a little bit of what they were doing in College Station as well, and kind of just made it our own McAllen flavor of teen court, where we do have teens being advocates. We have teens acting as law enforcement representatives, and we have teens also participating as jurors and making these decisions on behalf of other teens. I think there's really no more perfect form of justice than justice that truly does come from your peers.
I agree. And I think having peers defend someone, especially your age, it kind of gives you a whole new perspective, like the different spots you're in, I guess. And so it's kind of inspirational for those that, we're defending. Maybe like you could get to our point one day and, you don't have to be in that position. That's actually really awesome that you kind of took two different cities and combined it and made it your own.
Yeah, we wanted to do something that worked for us.
Hmm.
And I had worked a lot with mock trial down
Hmm.
here in the valley. I had been served as a judge almost every year since I came back as a young attorney in the regional mock trial high school competition, and I was deeply involved in mock trial at the state level. My agency that I worked with, or semi-governmental agency, Texas Young Lawyers Association, runs the national trial competition, which is the premier mock trial tournament for law schools across the nation. So every year in April, you cannot find me for a week because I am somewhere in Texas helping run that mock trial competition. So I think advocacy is a something I loved. I was a trial attorney before I became a judge, and I thought that this was a great way to get kids interested in both sides of advocacy because I was a former defense attorney and then I became a prosecutor, so I argued both sides in trial. And we have our volunteers, as you know, switch between the sides. So it's not you're solely a prosecutor, you're solely a defense attorney. We're trying to encourage the kids who come through our program as volunteers to look at the entire case because I think there's so many things on both sides you can argue, especially when you're arguing what someone's punishment should be. And so it's been great to really watch kids flourish. And, my mentor was here the last time we had a session here in December, Joseph Orendine, and he's a big felony prosecutor and has worked on all these extensive capital murder cases where they were seeking the death penalty. And he came in and presided over teen court, and he was so impressed with just like how good the kids were.
Hmm.
And he's like, man, these kids sound like like the attorneys I deal with at court every day. I was like, yeah, they're great. And they have these incredible arguments. I'm still surprised that after doing this for 3 years, someone will come up with an argument on a case. And I'm like, oh, that's a really good argument. Like I had never heard that one before.
Hmm.
But I think that, there are kids that are involved doing an incredible job. Our participants, even who are defendants, do an incredible job of participating on the program and then later serving as jurors.
Hmm.
And we really want to get everyone interested and give kids a view of the criminal justice system because I know when I was a high schooler, I had no idea. And my uncle was an attorney. I still had no idea what the criminal justice system looked like and how it worked and how it functioned and how we can make a difference in it. And so I definitely want to expose our local teens to that early and start, building that interest in some of our future lawyers and judges and police chiefs and court reporters, because this is such a fundamental part of our society, and we need our best and brightest in the legal system.
I completely agree with that. Kind of to bounce off your statement about mock trial, I
Mhm.
completely agree because mock trial, like that is already in the school systems and that's already in schools. And a lot of kids that want a career in the judicial system or as lawyers, as judges, they participate in mock trial, but it's like in the name, it's mock. It's not
Mhm.
real. You're given a case and then you have to rehearse and rehearse and rehearse. And memorize your lines and stuff like that, memorize your questioning. You're given a character essentially. But
Mhm.
I think what I love about teen court, because I did both mock trial and teen court, I think what I personally love about teen court is that it's real life. Like you don't memorize
Right.
anything, you don't practice anything, you're not given a character, you just defend somebody or you prosecute somebody, and it's real life. And
Yeah.
you just kind of do it on the spot, which I think prepares you a lot, and you actually speak in front of a real jury, which are typically past defendants.
Mhm.
And so I think that like real experience, like someone's actually going to get some kind of punishment, or you could actually take someone's punishment away. That benefits a lot because you're set up for the real deal.
Yeah, I completely agree. Mock trial, even at the law school level, is very much I kind of equate it to play acting, right?
Hmm.
Like, yes,
Yeah.
you might hear some new argument from the defense, but basically everyone is operating off the same script, the same facts. You know what's coming. In
Hmm.
teen court, it's not like that. It is very much like the practice of real law, where you were kind of blindsided sometimes by stuff you didn't see
Hmm.
coming. But I think what was important for us is kind of giving this, like you said, real experience to teens. And so when we were developing a program, one of the things I saw them doing in Georgetown that I thought they did really well was exposing the teens to the discovery process. So that means giving the teens the real police reports, if there's videos, the real citations, real photographs that happen in these cases. So teens are able to articulate and argue those facts that are actually in the case pattern because that's what a real attorney does. You know, you're not working off of a fake case.
Hmm.
And I think it's really great watching teen attorneys argue these to the teen jurors and using different things to help their arguments. I think it's been really great to see some of these pleas for law enforcement, especially when it involves drinking. That's been a big thing this year. That's kind of been circulating not only in teen culture but in the Greater Valley culture is underage drinking. And hearing some of the arguments on that, hearing some arguments on cases where we've had some family violence. The prosecutor say, you know, he hit his mother, right? He shoved his mother, and seeing a jury react to those facts. And
Hmm.
then on the defense side, seeing them argue, hey, you know, this is a teen mom, or this person had to drive because basically they're in a situation where they're pretty much taking care of themselves and the parents are nowhere to be found.
Hmm.
And using these mitigating factors to kind of lessen the punishment that that teen is seeing. I think everyone who's participated has done an incredible job on representing the sides to the best of their ability. And I think that teen court is a great place where they can do that, but also be given the grace to mess up a little bit, you know, maybe be a little bit nervous. I try to tell everyone that never goes away, even once I have been prosecuting for almost a decade. Anytime I got up in front of a jury, there were butterflies. Sometimes I think if you don't have butterflies, maybe something's wrong with you, you
Yes.
know?
Hmm.
But I think that the kids do an incredible job. And, you know, we've taught them, hey, if you mess up, that's okay. Take a breath, take a pause, start over, you know, go back to your original thought. And we've had really good results. And I'm so, so proud of the advocates that we're turning out from this program.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it's very important to see both sides, and to also participate in both sides because if you just want to be a defendant, well, then you only know that side. And I think when I was doing it, practicing both sides and being a defense attorney and a prosecutor, like even in the same teen court session was like my favorite thing because I got to play like two different parts. But it was hard because when I was defending someone, I had to kind of go the compassionate route, kind
Mhm.
of like go more emotional, versus when I was prosecuting, it was more logistics, it was more factual, like, well, this
Mhm.
is wrong. And so kind of having that balance in between both for both sides was hard. So how do you, as the judge, practice that balance when you're watching this unfold in front of you?
I think it's a tricky thing. It's a tricky thing even outside of team court is, you know, kind of maintaining that balance of justice is punishment tempered by mercy, right? Like
Mhm.
where are we finding the balance and what is justice? Luckily in teen court, a lot of that burden is taken off of my shoulders since we do have penalty ranges. And
Mhm.
mostly, you know, we're seeing juries come back with assessing punishment in the form of community service or tutoring hours and jury terms as a punishment instead of a fine or a fee.
Mhm.
But on those cases, and I know you've been in our sessions where it happens, where we do allow the attorneys to make post-conviction arguments.
Yes.
So if they feel that, okay, the jury has come back with a sentence that is within the range, but there is something special about their client or unusual about their client that maybe they need to argue a further reduction. Whether we've had some arguments about people being teen moms, about they're working. Some of our students, it's a sad reality, but some of our kids that are coming through teen court that are in high school, not only are going to high school, but are basically working full-time 40-hour a week jobs. The limitations on those individuals on completing community service or tutoring or classes. I think that allowing them to make that extra step, and especially my considerations on whether or not I'm going to grant that,
Mhm.
it's a delicate balancing act. I think there are some situations, and I know you sat through those sessions where you just hear teens in some really bad and tough positions
Mhm.
where they're not going to have the time or they're not going to have the parental support. They're not going to have someone that's able to take them to community service or tutoring. And then there's times where it's kind of like, okay, I'm giving you 6 months to get this done. I think you can do the
Mhm.
20 hours, you know?
Mhm.
So it's just kind of weighing each case fact by fact, just like the attorneys do, and trying to figure out what outcome holds the teen accountable, but also gives them enough mercy that we're already not affecting the criminal record by them being in teen court. As long as you complete teen court, it's a dismissal, but also gives them a little bit of breathing room if they're in one of those extraordinary circumstances where they don't have the opportunity to do some of the requirements that we ask of our other teens.
Yeah,
And that's hard sometimes.
I completely agree. I think seeing it, like even with the cases I wasn't a part of, but I was still there, seeing like the attorney come back with a, well, my defendant is in this and this, and you just feel
Mhm.
bad for them because you realize that so many people have it harder than you, and then you just kind of put everything into perspective and say, well, you want to help this person out, but like you also want to hold them accountable. So
Mhm.
it's really hard to like, I guess, have your brain like decipher between the two. And I'm glad that we're already experiencing this because it's going to be even harder once we're actually attorneys and it's real. Like it's not just community service hours and jury terms. It's like
Jail
real
time. Yeah.
jail time, yes. So speaking of these like tough situations, have you seen a case or a situation where teen court has actually like helped someone or turned their life around?
Oh yeah, we've had a couple. Parents are usually the most likely to come and talk to us about it, more so than teens.
Mm-hmm.
But we've had some great feedback from our parents, from our participant parents, who have said, I'm really glad my kid went through this program. It's just a great opportunity right off the bat to keep their record clean, whether that's their driving record or their criminal record. But it also, it's not just a throwaway thing. They do have to do some work on the program. So we're trying to hold them accountable while giving them that grace of avoiding a conviction. But we've definitely had some parents come back and say, this is what my child needed. They understand now more how the system works and how serious these could be. I now we have our first teen who was a defendant applying to become an attorney in this next round.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be great that we're finally seeing one of our defendants move over into the role of attorney. And I think that's important because I know that in my everyday work, and especially with teen court, I was a teen that while I was smart, I was a little rambunctious, and so
Mm-hmm.
you see a little bit of yourself in the teens in my
Yeah.
position. And I think that even I see that in you all when you argue your cases, you identify with your peers in some way or form, whether it's, the activities you're in or maybe the situation they were placed in, especially in some of these cases where it's like peer pressure related or, little small mistakes that kind of snowballed. I think that it's important to have that similar worldview and that compassion because you've been in a similar situation. So I think that's great that we're getting this pipeline where we're getting defendants to become attorneys. And I think that that's the highest compliment we could have because if I can take someone who, had a possession of a vape and we can get that person interested in advocating for others and becoming an advocate for others, and maybe that person goes on to become a defense attorney or a judge or maybe even a law enforcement officer. That's what we want because we want the people who are administering our justice system, and that includes law enforcement, it includes defense attorneys, it includes judges, prosecutors. We want them to look like the communities they represent. We want them to have the same experiences as the communities they represent. And it's so important, I think, to bring that forward when we're teaching about the justice system. We want it to be truly peers that we are surrounded by and are making these decisions for us.
Yeah, no, 100%. Because how else are you going to create a strong argument if you haven't really been in their footsteps? If you don't put
Mm.
yourself in their shoes, you have to kind of have that common ground to relate to them and defend them. Seeing this happen, someone go from being a defendant to now applying for this program, what do you think participating in teen court impacts a young person's understanding of the judicial system?
Well, one, I think it gives them real world experience. And I think, as you said, that's pretty invaluable. You're not really going to get there anywhere else. I wish I had had an opportunity like this before I became a lawyer, because when I became a lawyer, I genuinely had no idea what the criminal justice system looked like.
Mhm.
And I was going to be a family lawyer. I kind of stumbled into criminal law, and even though I love it now and that's my home. And I think they were giving kids a real world view of what this looks like and what they could look like as part of this system.
Mhm.
Um, I think that now, even more than that, it gives you a sense of compassion, especially because you're having to work dual sides, whether
Mhm.
you're an attorney or you're listening to arguments as a bailiff or a court reporter. You're hearing these arguments. It gives you some compassion. You see the different facts of the cases, and it's so interesting to see how the juries come back with them. Where like you'll hear an attorney argue what they know is a bad fact, right? And you'll just see kind of the jurors like look around, and we like everyone's like, what did the jury hear that made them come back with a higher sentence than usual, you know? And
Mhm.
usually it's one of those bad facts. I think it just gives you this very realistic expectation of what law is
Mhm.
and how important everyone's roles are in the legal system.
Even seeing you, like us being a part of it, and then just seeing you be the judge, it's like everybody, there's always a step further you could go. Like the defendants, they could apply for the program, but then like we aspire to be like you sometimes, like the
Mhm.
judge. So I think that there's always room for inspiration, and we really are getting real world experience. So now to kind of go to the process of teen court, could you like kind of
Mhm.
walk us through what a teen court session looks like?
So, Teen Court is a program, as I said, that we're allowed to do by the legislature. And they granted us the right to do so in the Code of Criminal Procedure and in the Family Code. And what happens to get onto Teen Court is you're going to essentially have two important hearings if you are a Teen Court participant or defendant. The first is going to be that you're going to go to a juvenile hearing, and that's the hearing we have for every juvenile here in the city that gets a ticket, or if they're not a juvenile, meaning under the age of 17, if they're 17 or older and they're enrolled in a Texas high school, or they're under the age of 18, they are also included on that docket. And basically, what we do is we kind of weed out in that docket who would qualify for teen court, who does not qualify for teen court. Teen court here in the city of McAllen, we have our own restrictions that we place on them, but the statewide restrictions are essentially that they have to be, as I said, under the age of 18 or enrolled in a secondary school program, so like high school or homeschool, middle school. And they have to plead guilty or no contest to their charge. And they have to request the teen court program. And they cannot do it if they've already completed teen court within the last year. So you only get a shot at it once every 365 days. And if you qualify, our prosecutor's really good prior to docket, going through the docket and saying, hey, these are the kids that qualify for teen court. We will go ahead and offer them teen court. If they want to do it, they will sign up. If not, then we find some other sentencing option for them, whether that's deferred or going to trial. And then if you do sign up to go to teen court, you would pay a $20 fee per charge, which is much cheaper than most of the fines that these charges have. And then you would come to a teen court sentencing session. And that's our main teen court program where
Mhm.
we bring in our volunteer attorneys, bailiffs, court reporters, and they essentially sit through their session and their case is argued by their teen defense attorney. It is argued by a teen prosecutor to a teen jury, and that teen jury makes the determination on sentencing. And all of our sentencing here in the city of McAllen include community service or tutoring hours and terms to serve as a teen juror on other teen court cases. Now, what you are looking at range-wise depends on what type of crime it is. We have a full list of what the crimes are and how we rank them. And then once they get their sentence, then they would only return to serve as a teen juror, and they have 6 months from the date of their sentencing to get all these requirements done.
How has the teen court program changed since you first brought it back, since we first started this?
Well, obviously, when I first started, I was still on COVID protocol, so the program looks completely different than when I first got in office. But since our first cohort, we're now on cohort 3 that we're just admitting right now. I think we've gotten obviously more volunteers. We started with a core group of about 8 kids that was really doing a lot of the attorney and bailiff and juror duties. Now we've grown a little bit. I think it's great that we're seeing this expansion into different schools, which I really love. I feel like we're pulling from all of our McAllen high school and secondary schools. We're getting homeschool kids now. We're getting kids even from magnet schools that are located near us. So that's really, really cool. And I think the big difference is now we have 2 coordinators in my office, Miss Adriana Flores and Miss Vanessa Gano, who are dedicated to juvenile justice. And so they're helping administer these programs. And it's just really great now that we graduated our first seniors last May. We're getting ready to graduate our second round of seniors, so which you're one.
Hmm.
But just seeing you all kind of grow up and go to college, and I see some of my kids that graduated last year. Vicente was one of them that I see at like young lawyer events because pre-law kids come to our events now. And I think it's just great watching you all grow and getting to college and go out and do great things and hopefully come back and do great things here. And I think it's really cool to see how the interest has grown. Our first cohort that we did when we revamped the program, we had about 30 applicants for volunteer positions. Now, on our last applicant cycles, we're at over 100 applicants per cycle.
Wow.
So just the interest is growing. I think we have great advocates even in the program. I know all of y'all that serve as volunteers go and talk about it at school. And so now we're getting, friends of friends and kids from the same mock trial teams that are coming in and joining as volunteers. And I think it's just really great to see this program grow and for kids, especially in that age group, to know about it, know that it's an option in case they do make a mistake and get into trouble, but it's also an option for them to kind of see if the legal field is for them.
So, since this has changed and improved so much in the past 3 years, what are your ultimate goals for Teen Court? Like, how do you see this expanding or improving to your ultimate goal?
So eventually, what I would like to see, we are currently the only teen court really operating, mock trial kind of type teen court operating in the Hidalgo County, basically. And as far as I know, I think even maybe including Cameron. So obviously, I would love that to branch out. I have been in talks with some of our sister cities and some of our sister JPs who can also administer these programs about maybe starting a program with them in their own city, helping them start their own teen court program, or even doing kind of like a regional teen court. I think that would be my ultimate goal is, have our court be the one administering it, but it service cities, neighboring cities like Farr, Edinburgh, Mission. I think that would be really cool just because I know there, especially when we get into the smaller cities like Wesco, Mercedes, there's not really enough juvenile citations to justify doing the type of teen court that we're doing. But we don't want to rob those juveniles of those opportunities to keep their records clean either.
Yeah.
So I think, that would be my dream is to make it regional and have a more collaborative effort from the other municipal judges and justices of the pieces so that we're all running this together. And that way we have this great opportunity for all kids across the county, whether they're in McAllen, Edinburgh, Elsa, Wesco, they have a chance to either go through the program or to participate as a volunteer.
So, since you've basically built this program,
Mhm.
so what has been the most rewarding part of your work and just seeing this kind of turn into what you imagined?
I think the most rewarding part of the work has been seeing, one, it's the parents that come back to us and talk to us about how it's impacted their kids' lives who were defendants.
Mhm.
But then also, as I said, seeing the growth in our advocates. Because I remember we have some advocates who they started with us our first year and they were so quiet. They didn't want to be an attorney. They just wanted to be a juror. They didn't want to make any arguments. And now we have these kids growing and feeling more confident and stepping up and saying, okay, I'm going to do an argument. And especially when we have advocates that have emergencies last minute and we need someone to take a last minute case, it's really just incredible seeing how confident some of the teen attorneys are and being like, okay, give me the case packet. I'll be ready in 10 minutes. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I think that's great. And I'm really hopeful. I mean, we're about to start year 3 of the program, but I'm
Mhm.
really hopeful that sometime soon within the next 5 years, we're going to have our first attorney that went through the program,
Yeah.
and I can't wait for that day because I think it's great. And one of the things that I'm trying to do in getting attorneys is we have guest judges, which I hadn't mentioned before. But
Mhm.
not only do I sit there and administer the program, but we have different types of judges come in that are lawyers here in the community. So we kind of run the gamut. We've done family law attorneys. We've done attorneys that are social media influencers. We've done attorneys who own their own independent businesses that are not law related. So they come and talk about like the intersection of being a lawyer and an entrepreneur. I want to show the participants and the volunteers being a lawyer doesn't just look like one thing. There's a million ways to be a lawyer and to come back to the valley and positively impact your community, whether that's by being the next crash gal, the next Stephen Franz, the next Joseph Ordain, big felony prosecutor, or in owning a business, whether that be a nail salon or something else that you're really passionate about. And so I hope that like exposing our teen court participants and volunteers to all the shades of being a lawyer has been helpful for them because I think you can be anything. Being a lawyer can look any way you want it to look. It's just you got to decide where your passion lies in the law and what kind of life you want to build around that.
Exactly. I mean, you can kind of turn law into anything.
Hmm.
You can even be an attorney for your favorite athlete or your
Hmm.
favorite company or some big company. Like it doesn't have to just be like all in a courtroom.
No, absolutely. And that's one of the things we're trying to get across. And I have a buddy of mine who lives out of Corpus, and I was a baby prosecutor with him back 10 years ago. And now he is currently on court TV, like giving his little spiel on cases because he does a lot of civil rights cases. And
Mhm.
I'm like, I would love to get him down because it really can look like anything you want it to. If you want to mix law and communication, you want to mix law and business, you want to mix law and social media, it can look like anything you want it to look like.
Mhm.
And I'm just really looking to build the next great generation of lawyers down here and to eventually find someone to take my place and make this program even better.
Kind of bouncing off of all that and to wrap this up, what advice would you give to teenagers like me, who are interested in the law, interested in being an attorney, or interested in civic engagement?
I think the big thing is just be engaged. I think when I was in high school, I was a great student. I graduated top 10% of my class, and I was fairly involved. But I did feel, especially in high school and during parts of college, maybe even going into law school, that I held myself back a little bit. And I talk a lot about this at women events that we go to where we're talking to girls who want to eventually go into pre-law or law. I think maybe there's this expectation or preset for us not to be loud, not to stand out,
Mhm.
not to do the hard things, to be easily kind of intimidated into not doing things. We don't need to be like that. I think of all the two opportunities I missed in high school and in college where I just thought, well, maybe that's not for me.
Mhm.
And I think that was my doubt speaking. I think if I had just done it and faced my fears, I could have done something incredible in those spaces. Take the opportunity, have the audacity. I always tell everyone, have the audacity, sign your name, raise your hand. Even if you don't think you're qualified, if it's something you're passionate about, raise your hand. And I hope that our kids take that opportunity here, raise their hand, get in the program, get up there, argue some hard cases. And maybe in the future, I'm going to see them, like I said, in my place. And that's the goal. I want them to be sitting where I'm sitting. I want them to do more than I've done and come back and help our local community.
I love that. Yes, I completely agree. That inspired me too. But yeah, I think it's super important to just want to give back and to be engaged and to just kind of set up that path for yourself to be where you want to be, no matter what it looks like in law. Because there's, like you said, so many different aspects and things you can go into in this field.
Yeah, and I think it's really easy to be disheartened with what we're seeing happen worldwide right now. I think it's really easy to get to a bitter and almost cynical place. And this is a program that gives me so much hope, and I hope it gives you all hope, the participant in it too, where it's like, no, I think the best thing for everyone, whether it's law or not law, right, is to give back to the community you're in, to really get in and engage with the community because that's the way we make a difference. Very few people are going to change the world posting a video or saying something on social media. What changes the world is those little changes you make in your community, those people you lift up in your community, those small good works you do in your community. That builds into a greater wave of change worldwide. And I think that we need to keep it local, maybe not get freaked out by the big picture version and do the good work where we can that's going to build up tomorrow's great leaders and really help our local community with whatever they're struggling with.
I completely agree. I think that's the most important part of this is that essentially, like, you're not just getting the benefits yourself, you're benefiting other people by
Mhm.
doing what you love. I think that's the most important part, I think, of like choosing a career is doing what you love, but also helping other people.
Absolutely.
Well, that wraps up this episode. Thank you so much for joining me, Judge.
Thank you for having me, Ava.
Of course. This wraps up the episode of the Inside Scoop Leading for Justice edition. Thank you again to the Honorable Lauren Sepulveda for taking the time to share her insight, experience, inspiring words, and passion for the Teen Court program. Her work with Teen Court is a powerful example of how programs like this give young people the chance to learn responsibility, leadership, and the importance of civic engagement. It also gives teens in our community second chances. Today's conversation isn't just about Teen Court. It's about the power of giving back and how one person's commitment to their community can create lasting change. If you're interested in learning more about Teen Court or getting involved, be sure to look into the opportunities available on the City of McAllen's website.